Achtung, the folks of YouTube. Welcome back to my Let's Explain of Victoria 2. This week's episode is the Russian Empire, and while I would usually take this time to go over the basic history of this country, I decided to get somebody a little more experienced on the topic. Gufu?
Greetings, fellows. I'm here to read off a script. Well done by Anani. However, it's completely incorrect, so we'll come up with things off the top of my head. The country that you're currently looking at is called Russia, in case you didn't know. And
oh my god, really?
Well, I don't know, Anani. It might be. It just might be. It started all the way back around the 700s and has been founded by early Slavic people as well as some Viking traders and some small Mongolian immigrants. Nonetheless, the first
Mongolian immigrants pictured here
were the kingdoms of Rus, Novgorod, and various other minor kingdoms that no one remembers.
I remember them.
Alas.
There's like Vladimir Rusk or something.
Only you would know that. Further on in the history of Russia, the Mongols have invaded, taking over most of the Dutch-speaking countries under their protectorate. I'm doing air quotes right now, which has led them to ruin because eventually they ended up fighting back and breaking them up.
Good job, Mongols. There's a reason you're a sub-state of China this time around.
Exactly. And in addition to that, slightly further on after that event, Ivan III, a Grand Duke of Muscovy, has united all the Russian duchies and little countries together.
Pictured here.
After he killed everybody, including his son.
Oh, don't forget that time he made Russia zealotously, I guess that's the word for it, orthodox, and zealotously, I don't know, is there another word for that? Anyway, he zealotously made Russia orthodox as possible, and alienated the crap out of all these guys. Problem being, they were the technological leaders at the time. A technological reader is a technological leader, and after that point, Russia started going on a long technological decline.
If the technological leaders, Anani, then it would be Asian. Anyway.
Not at that point.
The Russians returned to its modern roots that came around the beginning of the 18th century, and its second wave of modernization came around the beginning of 19th century, right after the Napoleonic Wars. And as you currently can see on the screen, this is the current state of Russia. It's big, it's scary, and it beat the shit out of Napoleonic army by losing against it and then starving it to death. They're Russian.
The most fun way.
Exactly.
Anyway,
so back to you, Anani.
As Gufu sort of mentioned, Russia is now less...
Country.
Yes, that's true, but is now less of a technological decline, as mentioned, and is now back to prominence. It has been on a long stride for many years of getting its technological resource back, literacy rate going up, etc., 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 and can now, from where you are currently seeing, either stretch its arms out and ride its new technological, military, and other achievements to victory, or just slowly succumb and decline before reaching an inevitable, horrid demise where you get shot. So that being said, let's look into a little bit of how to play the Russian Empire. First off, as mentioned, you are back on the technological rise. Though your literacy rate is poor at the beginning of the game, any basic education investment will very quickly raise it, and though your technologies don't appear to be that good off the outset, comparatively, especially towards most of its neighbors, it does have a strong advantage, and it does start out with a very nice research points.
You have to remember that the most majority of population is just serfs, aka the lower class, aka the guys you will tax the shit out of.
Yes, as mentioned, Russia has serfdom. Very much serfdom. A lot of their populations, especially in the non-Russian areas such as the Baltic and the Caucasian mountain chain, are mostly very uneducated farmers. So if you decide to go start sending out casus belli, or not casus belli, if you want to declare war on yourself, but if you want to start educating people, the Caucasus, Baltic, and especially the farther areas of Siberia, shown here, are a very good place to start. And that's just one aspect of the Russian Empire. Another major aspect that, of course, everybody who plays as a Russian Empire is going to want to be is militaristic. The Russian Empire at the time was known for its outstanding land military with its subpar navy. Having recently acquired many stretches of land through previous wars, including Finland, Poland, and Bessarabia, the Russian Empire is, as you would expect from a country that takes up the majority of Eurasia at the time period of the game, has very many windows to expand, even more so than the Ottoman Empire, which is one of the areas you can expand upon. In real life, there was a very large conquest of, or not conquest, but there was a very large dispute over Central Asia called the Great Game. And if there's one thing you want to be doing as a Russian Empire, it is playing your cards and winning at the Great Game. Your first few targets of the Great Game are very immediately pictured and very immediately close to you. So, we got these three little countries here: Kiev, Bukhara, and Kokand. Notice that they share large stretches of border with Persia, the Chinese Empire, and of course, India and Afghanistan. Of course, you could say, you know, these countries, what if it's not so much a good thing to try and conquer them?
You can say that they're small, but then again, you're Russia. I mean, just take them. You're big. You need more big.
Well, I mean, if you think that it's a waste of resources, maybe you should hear about what happened in real life. So, what happened to Kiev?
Oh, let's take a look. So apparently, it was thrown under a bus, the entire country, and it was collectively been attacked by both UK and Russia before being put under a very tight vassal status by somebody in 1873.
By Russia, of course.
Of course. But obviously, you should obviously conquer it instead.
Yes, which is what essentially happened. How about Bukhara?
Let's take a look. It has been contested before it's been adopted as a colonial possession.
Oh, how about Kokand?
Oh, they just tried it and then they got disassembled.
Oh, okay. So basically, every single one of these countries died a very horrible death in this era, and the best part is, they're not your only immediate targets. Persia was a very big contested area at the time, had many wars with the Russian Empire before it, same with the Ottoman Empire. There's also the Chinese Empire. Gufu, care to tell us a little bit about the concessions from the Chinese Empire?
Alrighty. The treaties of Aigun and Peking, or rather modern Beijing, have ceded the Tuvan Republic, Vladivostok, and Port Arthur to Russia. And guess what? You can do this in this game.
That's right! You can be just like real-life Russia and take advantage of the weakening Chinese Empire via decision. The game actively encourages you to do so. And you get Port Arthur, which may not look like much, but it is a great thing to have if China decides to take its land back. Vladivostok, now Haishinwai, a very contested region of China that will serve very effectively as a Pacific port. And if you're bored with that, you even get Sofia Nova, which is a one-province minor, or Sofia Nova, that is a Tuvan Republic, which is a one-province minor nation that's so pathetic they didn't even add it into the game. But wait, there's more! There's also the Pogobi region, which you contest with Japan, and the Shumshu region, which you also contest with Japan. But
and you can get this all for a nice easy price of $90.99. Call now. Just 5 easy payment of a bunch of soldiers thrown into the area.
And since Japan starts out uncivilized and can't actually use colonization national focuses on the area for a very long time, even your kids can do it. And by that I mean colonize the areas and laugh as Japan futilely tries to take them away from you and probably loses, unlike they did in real life. Because you're not stupid. At least I hope you're not.
Well, you can give it a try. I mean, Russia is that one country you can actually make some smart mistakes. You're not supposed to back down, though. You can make mistakes, but you should not back down.
Yeah, because
you're big, and you got people. Big people.
Oh, Gufu, care to mention some other places of mild interest?
Well, let's think about it. We got Afghanistan and Persia, and even the Ottoman Empire itself. Right for the taking, if you feel like it.
Don't forget the good old many Slavic states. If you folks were listening to the last episode, you would have remembered that there is a whole bunch of Slavic areas of the Ottoman Empire that start out under their hold. But if you play as Russia and use decisions and diplomacy right, you can collapse that entire structure and make it dead.
It's like a giant card house. Except you get it all for yourself.
Yeah, the Russian Empire, if you haven't already kind of guessed it by our excited spouting of all the places you can take over, is pretty much the Walmart of militaristic empires. I mean, everything around you is cheap to take land from. Some of them even has cores, like the Ottoman Empire down here. And pretty much everywhere around you, you just take it, and it's cheap, and they're not very great pieces of land, but they certainly do the job, especially if you try to go after places like China.
And getting those items will also completely destroy the ecology of the Earth.
Oh, and they'll make people riot.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is something we should mention. Russia is one of 2 nations in the entire Victoria II library that has special modifiers that increases dissent hiddenly. The only other place that does that is the USA until the Civil War happens. But Russia never stops unless it changes government type, or the absolute monarchy just freezes all the way down to HM's government with every single political reform in at least some form or fashion.
And with all parties like this, the rioting never stops.
Mm-hmm. So, and a historical outcome is a little more... It's a little more common, but if you are smart and you play your cards right, you can overcome it. After all, just ask Gufu here. He's a Tsarist. Gufu, do you think the Russian Empire can survive?
I'm finding a way to punch you through the TCIP. I'll be right back to you on that.
Okay, I'll just take that as a yes. So, with that said, let's discuss the very starting off steps of the Russian Empire, since it's so multifaceted that I couldn't possibly go over every strategy like I have been going over with Prussia, Austria, and the Ottomans. The first thing you want to do is, contrary to what I've said every episode pretty much so far, you don't need to encourage soldiers in your most populated provinces. I mean, it helps. Anything helps. Everything militaristically helps, anyway. But the glory of Russia is that you have that many more national foci free for the majority of the game that you can use to expand your literacy, encourage industry, and other fine uses of your otherwise soldier-heavy national focuses. Of course, it's always a good idea to encourage national focuses if you have too many and you have enough soldiers already. But one thing about Russia is that it has a lot of natural resources, so you can use those national foci to, say, encourage capitalists to make you some steel in North Finland. And if you really need soldiers, despite what common sense would say, it's probably a better idea to encourage them in Siberia, where most of your conflicts will actually be, so you don't have to walk all the way from Russia to there.
Yeah, from Russia to itself.
From Russia to Siberia, Russia. Other good places to use your national focuses are the Caucasian mountain chains, Georgia, in particular. Ukraine has a lot of coal, and is a very good place for making canned food factories if you decide to go against that.
For that matter.
The middle areas of Russia, in particular European Russia, in Kazan or Nizhny Novgorod, and Galish, which is Galish, either way, are very... They have a lot of timber, which means they're good for making factories that, involve wood, like furniture factories and the likes of that. In addition, they can also be used to make clipper ships, and if besides that, they're also just a good resource. They're just a good area to have railroads connecting to. So forts and your other province-based constructions will basically be finished in a flash. And so, with that said, there's also a lot of sulfur near the Ural mountain chain.
Yeah, so you can buy yourself some black dragons.
Yes,
if you're running the dungeon castle.
that is very true. So, with that said, my personal choice of starting Casus Belli are to encourage capitalists, these are capitalists, in Moscow.
You mean national focus? And not Casus Belli?
Yes, I do mean national focuses and Casus Belli.
Because unless you're starting the war in capitalists in Moscow, I think you might have missed a thing there or two, or 50.
And I would also encourage you to use a national focus to encourage clergymen, which will improve your literacy rate in pretty much pretty much all the regions you see here. That is, for those at home, Ekaterinodar, that's the North Caucasus. North Caucasia, that's modern Chechnya, Georgia, Armenia, or Azerbaijan. Basically, any of those places, they are the lowest literacy places in all of Russia at the start, and they could definitely use a lot of clergymen to help their literacy rate, especially if you plan to delve into Persia. So, with that being said, I encourage, as you would expect from good old freedom of trade is most important technology, your first technology choice should be pretty obvious. Freedom of trade is a very good starting tech, but that's kind of cheating, because if you don't have it, it really should in general be your starting tech. So, once you have that done with, I would also very strongly encourage you to research the basic railroad technologies, the power tree technologies, supply limit technologies if you're planning to be militant in the more mountainous areas, and just in general army technologies.
Well, I would also suggest the actually production tech and tax tech, mainly because the Russia will not start with good taxes, despite you having such a great pool of ready-to-tax serfs. And the production technology would be greatly augmented by the Russia's natural resources.
Those are both very true, though the production technologies you so mention are also, those are freedom of trade and power. So yeah, pretty much what I said. As well as tax efficiency, that is very true and something I forgot to mention. So Gufu, say something inspiring in Russian.
Ну что я могу сказать?
I know, he probably just called me a fag, but whatever that means, go forth, unleash the Russian bear on everyone around you, and industrialize and don't get shot like the Tsar.